I was folding his underwear when he told me I'd never understand real business. The cotton boxers with the frayed elastic, the ones I'd bought on sale 3 years ago, the ones I'd mended twice because he refused to throw them away, lay warm from the dryer in my hands. 20 years of folding his underwear, and this was the thanks I got. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Vanessa, sweetheart, Derek said, not looking up from his laptop at the kitchen table. It's complicated. Numbers, projections, market analysis. You wouldn't get it. I smoothed another pair, creating the perfect rectangle he preferred. I was just asking how the Hartford deal went. And I'm telling you, it's beyond your scope. He finally glanced up, his expression a mix of patience and pity that made my jaw clench. You take care of the house. I take care of the money. That's how this works. That's how this works. As if our marriage was a factory assembly line, each worker confined to their station. I placed the folded underwear in the basket and reached for another pair, my hands moving on autopilot after 2 decades of the same motions. I just thought, don't hurt yourself thinking about business, Van. He chuckled, returning his attention to the screen. You've got enough on your plate with the house and whatever else you do all day. Whatever else I do all day. I looked around our kitchen, my kitchen, the gleaming granite countertops I'd selected and negotiated the price on, getting us 15% below market rate. The custom cabinets I'd designed and supervised the installation of, catching 3 errors the contractor tried to slip past us. The entire layout I'd reconfigured after Derek complained the old kitchen was too cramped, managing the renovation without spending a penny over the budget I'd set. But sure, whatever else I do all day. Derek, I said carefully, setting down the laundry. I read an article about the Hartford merger. The writer suggested the timeline was too aggressive, that the due diligence period... Oh, God. He actually laughed out loud. You read an article? Well, case closed then. Forget my MBA and 15 years at Holloway Investments. Vanessa read an article. The familiar heat of humiliation crept up my neck, but I kept my voice steady. I was only trying to have a conversation. I know, honey, I know. He stood, closing his laptop with a definitive snap. But maybe stick to the book club discussions, yeah? Leave the business talk to people who actually work in the field. He kissed the top of my head as he passed, grabbing his keys from the counter. I'm meeting Rick and the guys for drinks. Don't wait up. The front door closed behind him with a soft click that felt like a gavel coming down. Don't wait up. As if I'd ever waited up for Derek Hutchinson. As if I spent my evenings pining by the window like some Victorian maiden. I had better things to do. I finished folding the laundry in silence, carrying the basket upstairs to our bedroom. The house felt bigger when Derek was gone, like it could breathe properly. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, professionally landscaped yard, in-ground pool. The kind of house Derek loved to brag about at parties, always emphasizing that he'd given me this beautiful home. Given me. I placed his folded clothes in his drawer with mechanical precision, then moved down the hall to my office. Derek called it my craft room, which would have been funny if it weren't so insulting. The door closed behind me with a soft click, and I let myself lean against it for just a moment, eyes closed. Then I opened them and got to work. My desk was organized chaos, exactly how I liked it. 3 monitors hummed to life as I settled into my chair, password protecting myself into a world Derek couldn't even imagine. The left screen displayed property records. The middle screen showed my secure email. The right screen held the spreadsheet I'd been updating for the past 6 months. 20 years ago, when Derek and I got married, I was 23 years old and pregnant with our daughter, Emma. fresh out of college with a degree in finance that I'd never get to use. Or so everyone assumed. Derek had just landed his entry-level position at Holloway Investments, full of ambition and promises. We'd rented a tiny apartment in Queens, barely room to turn around, and I'd been terrified about bringing a baby into such a cramped space. "Don't worry," Derek had said, holding my hand in the obstetrician's waiting room. "I'm going to give you everything. A real house. Security. You'll never have to worry about money." And I'd believed him. Wanted to believe him. Because I was young and scared, and morning sickness was making it hard to think straight. Because my own mother had worked herself into an early grave trying to be everything. Breadwinner, homemaker, parent. And I'd watched her collapse under the weight of it all. So when Derek suggested I stay home with Emma, I'd agreed. Temporarily, we'd said. Just until Emma was in school. Just until Derek got established. Just until the right moment. The right moment never came. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. But I hadn't been idle. Those early years while Derek climbed his corporate ladder and I raised our daughter, I'd been learning. Reading everything I could get my hands on about finance, real estate, investment strategies. While Emma napped, I studied. While she played in her playpen, I took online courses. While Derek bragged to his friends about his traditional family values, I was earning certifications he didn't know existed. I was also watching, observing how Derek managed money, or rather, how he mismanaged it. The impulsive purchases, the expensive dinners, the absolute confidence that his salary would keep climbing forever, that nothing bad could ever happen to Derek Hutchinson, master of the universe. I was 25 when I started taking small amounts from our joint account. Derek's idea to have a joint account, naturally, so he could keep track of household expenses. $50 here, $100 there. Nothing he'd notice, nothing that would trip any alarms. I told myself I was just being practical, building a secret emergency fund in case things went wrong. I was 27 when I made my first property investment. The house was a foreclosure in Queens, not far from where we'd lived when Emma was born. A 3-bedroom that had seen better days, but the bones were good. Strong foundation, solid structure. Just needed someone to see past the peeling paint and overgrown yard. I bought it for $127,000 using my emergency fund and a mortgage I qualified for based on my consulting income. A small bookkeeping business I'd registered and carefully maintained, handling accounts for 3 local small businesses. Derek never noticed the few hours a week I spent on my consulting work. Why would he? I was just a housewife, after all. Whatever I did while he was at the office couldn't possibly be real work. I renovated that Queens property myself. Well, myself and YouTube tutorials and a lot of weekend trips to Home Depot while Derek played golf. Learned to tile, learned to paint, learned to replace fixtures and repair drywall. Emma, 4 years old by then, would hand me tools and watch with wide, fascinated eyes. "Mommy's building something," I'd tell her. "What are you building?" she'd ask. "Our future." I sold that house 18 months later for $310,000. After expenses, I cleared nearly $140,000 in profit. And Derek never knew. Why would he check our joint account for deposits? Money only flowed out as far as he was concerned. I was spending, not earning. That's what Housewives did. I took that profit and bought 2 more properties, then 4, then 8. Some I renovated and flipped. Others I held and rented. Each success built on the last, my portfolio growing like a well-tended garden while Derek remained oblivious, watering his career and assuming mine was just decorative landscaping. Now, at 43 years old, I own 27 properties across 5 states. Rental income alone brought in $42,000 monthly, not counting the flips I did twice a year that usually netted me 6 figures each. My total net worth, conservatively estimated, was somewhere around $8.3 million. Derek thought I was a housewife who didn't work. The irony was so thick I could spread it on toast. I pulled up the property record that had been bothering me all week. Our house, the house Derek loved to brag about, the house he'd given me. 1247 Riverside Drive. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, professionally landscaped. Worth approximately $2.1 million in today's market. The deed was in my name. Only my name. Derek had never bothered to check. Why would he? He'd signed the papers when we bought it 12 years ago, distracted by some emergency at work, barely reading what he was signing. The real estate agent had been my cousin Rachel. Not that Derek remembered that detail. Rachel had arranged everything beautifully, ensuring the deed reflected that I was purchasing the property with my own funds, which I was. Derek had contributed exactly nothing to the down payment, though he'd certainly taken credit for it at his office. Bought a house in Riverside, he'd announced to his colleagues, chest puffed with pride. Really moving up in the world. He'd bought nothing. I'd bought a house. With my money. In my name. And he'd never once thought to verify the paperwork, because why would he? I was just his housewife. I just took care of whatever else all day. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma, now 20 years old and in her junior year at Columbia. Dad just posted on Facebook about his investment portfolio. Mom, does he know that you literally own his portfolio? I smiled. Emma knew everything. She'd figured it out when she was 16, had walked into my office one Saturday afternoon and found me reviewing rental contracts. I'd frozen, terrified, certain my secret life was about to implode. But Emma had just pulled up a chair, studied the monitors for a long moment, and said, "Holy shit, Mom, you're like a secret superhero." We'd talked for 3 hours that day. I'd shown her everything, the properties, the business structure, the careful web of LLCs and trusts I'd created to keep everything separate from Derek's world. She'd been furious on my behalf, ready to march downstairs and confront her father immediately. "Not yet," I'd told her. "I need the timing to be right." "When will the timing be right?" she'd demanded. "When I'm ready to stop being invisible." That was 4 years ago. I was ready now. Another text from Emma. BTW. Dad's meeting his lawyer tomorrow about the Hartford deal. Overheard him on the phone. Sounded stressed. I sat back in my chair, fingers steepled under my chin. Derek rarely used lawyers beyond the corporate team at Holloway. If he was bringing in outside counsel, something was wrong. Something big enough that he didn't trust his employer's resources. My email pinged. A message from Gerald Hartman, my own attorney. A detail Derek was also unaware of. Gerald and I had been working together for 5 years, ever since my property portfolio had grown large enough to need serious legal protection. He was discreet, efficient, and had a particular talent for asset protection that had proven invaluable. The subject line read, "Received inquiry regarding 1247 Riverside Drive." My pulse quickened as I opened the message. "Vanessa, hope this finds you well. Interesting development today. I received a call from a lawyer named Philip Brennan at Morrison & Associates. He's representing someone trying to establish a property claim related to your Riverside Drive residence. Wouldn't give me specifics, but he wanted to verify the ownership records and chain of title. I provided what was necessary, confirmed you are the sole owner, no encumbrances beyond the mortgage which is in your name only." He seemed surprised by this information. Very surprised. "Call me when you can. This might be what we've been preparing for." Gerald. My hands were steady as I reached for my phone. but my heart was racing. Philip Brennan. Morrison and Associates. I pulled up a quick search. Corporate law firm. Mid-sized. Specializing in business transactions and divorce proceedings. Divorce. The word hung in my mind like a chandelier about to fall. Was Derek actually stupid enough to try divorcing me? After 20 years of marriage, with a daughter in college, assuming he could just… what? Walk away with half of everything? Including a house that wasn't even his? I dialed Gerald's number. He picked up on the second ring. "I figured you'd call quickly," he said without preamble. "You read the email?" "Derek's trying to divorce me." That would be my guess. The lawyer was fishing, trying to figure out the asset situation before filing papers. Standard practice. I heard Gerald's chair creak as he shifted position. But here's what makes this entertaining, Vanessa. He thought the house was jointly owned. Or possibly in Derek's name. The look on his face, well, I couldn't see his face, but I could hear it in his voice when I confirmed you're the sole owner. He asked me to repeat myself 3 times. How much does he know about my other properties? Nothing. The LLCs are structured specifically to maintain privacy. Unless Derek has documentation proving his contribution to your business ventures, which he doesn't, because he has no idea they exist, he has no claim to them. Gerald paused. Vanessa, if Derek is moving toward divorce, we need to act fast. Get ahead of this. File first if possible. No. The word came out harder than I intended. Not yet. But I want him to file. I want him to walk into that courtroom absolutely confident that he's about to take half of everything his housewife has. I want his lawyer to present their case, lay out their demands, make their arguments about equitable distribution. I was standing now, pacing in front of my monitors. And then I want to watch their faces when they realize what I actually own. Gerald was quiet for a moment. You want maximum impact. I want him to understand exactly what he threw away. 20 years of calling me just a housewife. 20 years of patting my head and telling me not to worry about the complicated business stuff. I want that lesson delivered at maximum volume, Gerald. All right. I could hear the smile in his voice. Then we prepare for war, but quietly. I'll need you to compile documentation on everything. Every property, every LLC, every income stream. Timeline of acquisitions. Proof that all funding came from your independent income. We need to make this case absolutely bulletproof. I've been keeping records since day 1. I can have it to you by Friday. Perfect. And Vanessa? Get ready for Derek to become very unpleasant when he realizes you saw this coming. Men like him don't handle surprise well. We hung up, and I returned to my desk, but I couldn't sit. Energy was thrumming through me. 20 years of suppressed frustration suddenly given a target. Derek wanted a divorce. Derek thought he was going to walk away with half my empire. Derek assumed the poor, clueless housewife would roll over and let him take whatever he wanted. Derek was about to get an education. I pulled up my master spreadsheet, the one that tracked every property, every tenant, every mortgage payment, every repair expense. 27 properties. Some in my name directly, others held through LLCs with me as the sole member. The documentation was meticulous because I'd known this day might come. Not hoped for it exactly, but prepared for it. My mother used to say, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. She died when I was 19, exhausted from years of trying to do everything alone. I'd sworn at her funeral that I would never let myself become dependent on anyone, that I'd always have my own resources, my own security, my own escape route. Even when I'd loved Derek, and I had loved him once, truly, I'd kept that promise to myself. Kept it so well that he'd never noticed the lifeboat I was building while he sailed along, assuming I was just decorative cargo. The front door opened downstairs. Derek was home earlier than expected. I could hear him fumbling with his keys, muttering to himself. Drunk, probably. The guy's night-out routine had become more frequent lately, which made sense now. Liquid courage for what he was planning. I saved my work and locked my screens, listening to Derek's heavy footsteps on the stairs. He passed my office without pausing. He never came in here anymore. Hadn't in years. Why would he? It was just my craft room, my little hobby space. Nothing important happened here. I waited until I heard our bedroom door close, then pulled out my phone and started a new document. Evidence. Timeline. Everything I could remember from the past year that suddenly made sense through this new lens. 3 months ago, Derek had asked about our credit cards, wanted to consolidate them. I'd refused, saying I liked keeping track of different expenses separately. He'd been annoyed, but hadn't pushed. 6 weeks ago, Derek had suggested we refinance the house, take advantage of better rates. I'd told him our current rate was excellent, and we didn't need to. He'd dropped it after one more try. 2 weeks ago, Derek had asked if I'd ever considered going back to work. For your self-esteem, he'd said. Give you something meaningful to do. I'd laughed it off, said I was happy as I was. But now I wondered, was he trying to establish that I had employable skills? Build a case that I didn't need spousal support? Last week, Derek had invited his brother Thomas over for dinner. Thomas was a CPA. They'd spent the entire evening talking about financial planning and asset protection. I'd served pot roast and nodded along, playing the dutiful housewife, while they'd discussed strategies for protecting wealth in uncertain times. They'd been planning this, for months probably, making their moves, setting their traps, absolutely confident that I was too stupid to notice, too focused on my cookbooks and vacuum cleaner to see the big picture. I added each memory to my document, timestamping them, cross-referencing them with emails and calendar entries. Gerald would want this. The court would want this. And most importantly, Derek's lawyer would choke on this when we presented it as evidence that Derek had been planning this divorce while lying to his wife's face. A new text from Emma. Dad just called me. Asked if I'd be okay if he and you needed some space. I played dumb. Said you guys seemed fine to me. He got super weird and changed the subject. Mom, I can come home this weekend if you need me. I typed back, no need, honey. I've got this. But I love you for offering. Just keep playing dumb around your father for now. The less he suspects, the better. He has no idea what's coming, does he? Not even a little bit. I wish I could watch. Can I come to court? Front row seat, baby girl. I promise. I set down my phone and allowed myself a rare moment of genuine emotion. Emma had grown up watching her father dismiss her mother. She'd heard every, "Don't worry about it, sweetheart," and every, "That's too complicated for you," and every, "Just a housewife" comment. She'd seen me swallow my pride 1,000 times, had watched me play the role Derek wanted while hiding who I really was. And she'd been ashamed of me for a while. I knew that. Her teenage years had been rough, full of arguments about why I didn't stand up to Dad, why I let him talk to me that way, why I pretended to be helpless when I clearly wasn't. We'd nearly lost our relationship over it. The day I'd shown her the truth, the properties, the income, the careful construction of my secret empire, everything had changed. She'd understood, not just what I'd done, but why, the strategy of it, the long game. You're playing chess while he's playing checkers, she'd said, awed. I'm playing survival, I'd corrected. But yes, I'm several moves ahead. Now the endgame was approaching. Derek was making his move, completely unaware that I'd been ready for this for years, that every piece was already in position, that his opening gambit was actually just him walking into checkmate. I opened a new browser window and pulled up Derek's LinkedIn profile. 15 years at Holloway Investments, currently VP of Client Relations. Good salary, around $350,000 annually plus bonus. Healthy, 401k. Stock, options that had done well. By most standards, Derek was successful. Well compensated. Secure. But compared to what I'd built, Derek was barely breaking even. My rental income alone exceeded his salary. My property portfolio was worth more than he'd earn in a decade. And he thought he was the breadwinner. Thought he'd given me everything. Thought I should be grateful for his financial support. The sheer audacity of it would have been funny if it hadn't been my life. I spent another hour documenting everything I could think of, building the timeline, preparing the evidence. Then I backed everything up to 3 separate secure locations: cloud storage, external drive, and Gerald's encrypted server. Paranoia, maybe, but I'd learned to be thorough. It was past midnight when I finally shut down my computers and headed to bed. Derek was already asleep, snoring softly, one arm thrown over his eyes. He looked peaceful, innocent, like a man without a care in the world. I changed into my pajamas quietly, slipped between the sheets on my side of the bed, and stared at the ceiling in the darkness. 20 years. 2 decades of building a life, raising a daughter, creating an empire in secret while pretending to be something I wasn't. Had it been worth it? I thought about the alternative. If I'd confronted Derek years ago, demanded respect, insisted on being treated as an equal partner, he would have smiled, patted my hand, and continued exactly as before. Or maybe he would have divorced me then, when Emma was young and I had less saved, when my position was weaker. Men like Derek didn't change because you asked nicely. They changed when they had no other choice. So yes, it had been worth it. Every condescending comment, every dismissive laugh, every time I'd bitten my tongue and played the role of the helpless housewife. All of it had been worth it to reach this moment, when I finally had the power to show him exactly how wrong he'd been. Derek shifted in his sleep, mumbling something unintelligible. I watched him for a moment, this man I'd shared 20 years with, this stranger who'd never bothered to really see me. Tomorrow he'd wake up and continue with his plan, confident and comfortable, certain of his victory. He had no idea the war was already over. I closed my eyes and smiled in the darkness. The next few months were going to be extremely interesting. When I woke the next morning, Derek was already gone. A note on the kitchen counter informed me he had an early meeting and wouldn't be home for dinner. Standard Tuesday morning procedure, except Tuesdays he usually had late meetings, not early ones. More divorce planning, probably. Meeting with Philip Brennan at Morrison & Associates, strategizing about how to divide assets Derek didn't own. I made coffee. Good coffee, from the expensive machine Derek had bought last Christmas because he'd read somewhere that successful people had expensive coffee makers, and settled at the kitchen table with my laptop. The morning sun streamed through the windows I'd had professionally cleaned last week, illuminating the custom tile backsplash I'd selected 3 years ago during yet another renovation Derek had barely noticed. An email from Gerald was waiting. Spoke with Philip Brennan again this morning. He called back with more questions about the property deed, specifically trying to determine if there were any irregularities in the filing. I told him everything was perfectly legal and documented. He asked if you had independent legal representation. I said you did. He seemed unhappy about that. I think they were hoping for an easy win against an unrepresented spouse. Gee. I typed back. Let them hope. What's our next move? His response came quickly. We wait. Let Derek serve papers. We have everything ready to respond, but we don't want to show our hand yet. When the time comes, we'll hit them with discovery requests that will make their heads spin. But for now, patience. Patience. Right. I'd been patient for 20 years. I could manage a few more weeks. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mrs. Hutchinson? This is Jennifer Marsh from Morrison & Associates. I'm assisting Mr. Brennan with a legal matter concerning you and your husband. My pulse quickened, but I kept my voice calm and slightly confused. I'm sorry, what legal matter? I'm not at liberty to discuss the details over the phone, but we'll be filing paperwork soon that will explain everything. I'm calling to verify that this is the correct phone number and address for you. What kind of paperwork? I let a hint of worry creep into my voice. Is Derek okay? Is this about his work? Mr. Hutchinson is fine, ma'am. This is a personal legal matter. You'll receive official documentation within the week. I don't understand. Can I talk to Derek about this? That's entirely up to you, Mrs. Hutchinson. We're just handling the legal proceedings. She hung up, leaving me with dead air and confirmed suspicions. They were moving forward. Papers would be filed within the week. Derek's grand plan was in motion. I immediately called Gerald. They just contacted me. Derek's lawyer. They're filing within the week. Good. That's actually good. Gives us time to prepare our response. Remember, Vanessa, when you get served... I act devastated, confused, like I have no idea what's happening and no idea what to do about it. Exactly. Let them think they're up against an overwhelmed housewife with no resources and no plan. The longer they underestimate you, the more effective our counterstrike will be. We talked strategy for another 20 minutes. Gerald would have his paralegal monitor the court filings, watching for the moment Derek's petition hit the system. We'd have 72 hours to file our response. Everything was ready. The property documentation, the income records, the proof that every cent of my empire had been earned, independently of Derek's income or contribution. One more thing, Gerald said before we hung up. You should probably prepare yourself emotionally for how ugly this might get. When Derek realizes what's happening, he's not going to be rational about it. Men in his position, men who've built their self-image on being the provider, the successful one, they don't handle this kind of revelation well. I know. I've been married to him for 20 years. I know exactly how he'll react. Just be careful. Document everything from this point forward. Every interaction, every conversation, every text message. We want a complete record of his behavior once he realizes the truth. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, my kitchen, in my house, paid for with my money, and let myself feel the weight of what was coming. The confrontation, the court battle, the inevitable explosion when Derek's world turned inside out. Part of me felt guilty. The part that remembered the young man who'd held my hand in the doctor's office 20 years ago, promising to take care of everything. But that man was gone, if he'd ever really existed, replaced by someone who saw me as decoration, as staff, as something less than human. Someone who was willing to discard me the moment I stopped being convenient. I hadn't caused this. I'd only prepared for it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop calling my husband's office. This is harassment. Melissa. I stared at the message, genuinely confused for a moment. Then it clicked. Melissa. Derek had mentioned her a few times, his new assistant at Holloway, hired about 8 months ago. I'd never called Derek's office in my life, barely even called his personal cell during work hours, which meant Melissa was the real reason for the divorce. Of course there was another woman. Because Derek wasn't just trying to leave me. He was trying to leave me for someone else. Someone younger, probably. Someone who looked at him with admiration instead of barely concealed exhaustion. Someone who didn't know him well enough yet to see through the performance. I almost laughed. This was so perfectly predictable it was like Derek was following a script. Midlife crisis? Check. Younger woman at work? Check. believing he could easily dispose of his longtime wife and start fresh. Check. The only surprise was that he'd taken this long to get here. I didn't respond to Melissa's text. Instead, I screenshot it and sent it to Gerald with a note. Evidence of affair. Meet Melissa, Derek's assistant. His response: perfect. This actually helps us. Judges tend to look unfavorably on spouses who cheat and then try to claim marital assets. Document everything related to this. I spent the rest of the morning doing exactly that. Social media searches turned up Melissa Hartley, 28 years old, marketing degree from Hofstra, 3 years at Holloway Investments. Her Instagram was public, and sure enough, there were several photos that included Derek in the background. One from a company party 6 months ago where they were standing very close together, his hand on her lower back. Another from what looked like a business dinner, just the two of them, her eyes bright with wine and attention. I saved everything. Screenshots, URLs, dates, timestamps. Built a file that proved the affair timeline, showed when it had likely started, demonstrated that Derek had been planning his exit while maintaining the pretense of marriage. Emma called at noon. Mom, I'm skipping my afternoon classes. I'm coming home. Emma, no. You can't. I already left. I'll be there in 2 hours. Don't argue. She hung up before I could protest further. Part of me wanted to be annoyed. She had midterms coming up. Her education was important. But mostly, I just felt grateful. My daughter, ready to stand beside me when everything fell apart. The house felt different now, knowing what was coming. Every room looked like evidence. The living room furniture I'd selected, the artwork on the walls I'd negotiated for at gallery sales, the whole home renovations I'd managed while Derek was too busy with work to notice. All of it about to be cataloged and valued and fought over in court. Except it wasn't going to be a fight, because Derek didn't own any of this. He just thought he did. I made lunch mechanically, my mind running through scenarios. Best case, Derek's lawyer discovers the truth quickly, advises him to settle quietly, and we arrange an uncontested divorce where he leaves with what's actually his and nothing more. Worst case, Derek refuses to believe the evidence, drags this out for months, tries to claim that my business somehow used marital resources even though it didn't. Most likely case, somewhere in the middle. Shock, denial, anger, bargaining. The whole grief cycle compressed into legal proceedings and courtroom drama. I was ready for all of it. Emma arrived at 2:30, bursting through the door with the energy of righteous fury. She'd inherited my dark hair and Derek's height, making her a striking figure when she was angry. Which she clearly was. Where is he? She demanded. At work, probably planning how to serve me divorce papers. That absolute... She caught herself, took a breath. Okay. What's the plan? I filled her in on everything. The lawyer's call, Melissa's text, Gerald's strategy. Emma listened with her arms crossed, jaw set, looking so much like a younger version of me that it was almost eerie. So we just wait, she said when I finished. We let him think he's winning? For now. Patience, baby. The trap only works if he walks into it. I want to post on social media. Blast him. Let everyone know what a fraud he is. No. I said it firmly. That's exactly what we don't do. We stay quiet, stay classy, and let the court handle it. When this is over, the truth will be public record anyway. Let that speak for itself. She wasn't happy, but she nodded. Fine, but I'm staying here until this is resolved. I'll do my coursework remotely. Emma. Non-negotiable, Mom. You've been alone in this for 20 years. You're not alone anymore. I felt tears threatening for the first time all day, but I blinked them back. Thank you. We spent the rest of the afternoon going through my documentation together. Emma's finance classes making her the perfect person to help me organize everything. She asked smart questions, caught a few places where I needed better documentation, helped me build a timeline that was bulletproof. "This is insane," she said at one point, scrolling through my property list. "You built all this while Dad thought you were just, what, watching soap operas? And raising you. Don't discount that part." "Obviously. But Mom," she turned to face me, "why didn't you just leave? Years ago, when you realized what he was, why stay?" It was the question I'd asked myself 1,000 times. Because leaving when you're weak means accepting whatever terms the stronger person offers. Leaving when you're strong means dictating the terms yourself. I needed to be strong first. "You were always strong." No, I was always determined. It took time to build the strength. Derek came home at 7 p.m., earlier than usual, which meant he was probably done meeting with his lawyer for the day. He walked in to find Emma and me making dinner together, the picture of domestic normalcy. "Emma!" He seemed genuinely surprised. "What are you doing home?" "Missed you guys. Thought I'd come for a visit." "But it's the middle of the week. Don't you have classes?" "Doing them remotely for a few days. My professors are understanding." He didn't like that answer. I could see it in his face, but he couldn't exactly argue with it. "Well, that's nice. Great to see you, honey." Dinner was awkward. Emma kept giving Derek pointed looks he didn't understand. Derek kept checking his phone. I focused on eating, playing my role of oblivious wife perfectly. "So," Derek said finally, pushing his food around his plate. "Vanessa, we should probably talk about some things. Financial stuff. Planning ahead." "Okay." I kept my voice mild. "What kind of planning?" "Just, making sure we're prepared for whatever comes." "Are you expecting something to come?" He met my eyes for the first time all meal. Looking for something. Signs that I knew, maybe. But I gave him nothing. Just polite curiosity. "No, nothing specific. Just being responsible." He turned to Emma. "How's school? Dating anyone?" The subject change was clumsy, but Emma went with it, launching into a story about her roommate's relationship drama. I tuned out, watching Derek instead. The nervous energy. The phone checking. The way he couldn't quite meet my eyes. He knew. On some level, he knew that things were about to explode. But he was too arrogant, too confident in his plan to suspect that I might be ahead of him. After dinner, Derek retreated to the den to watch television. Emma and I cleaned up together, our movements synchronized from years of practice. "He's scared," Emma whispered. "Did you see him? He knows something's wrong. He's about to destroy his marriage. Of course he's on edge." "No, it's more than that. He suspects something." I considered that. Emma was perceptive. She'd always been good at reading people. "Even if he does, there's nothing he can do about it. The papers will be filed soon. After that, everything becomes public record. I really want to punch him." "I know, honey, but we don't do that. We do this the right way." Later, after Emma had gone to bed in her old room and Derek was snoring in ours, I stood in my office in the dark, looking out the window at our street. Riverside Drive, where all the successful families lived, where people had cookouts and block parties and congratulated each other on their promotions and new cars. Derek loved this neighborhood, loved telling people where we lived, loved the status it conferred. He had no idea it was all mine. Tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, papers would be served. The divorce process would officially begin. And Derek's comfortable world, built on assumptions and arrogance, would start to crumble. I couldn't wait. The papers arrived on Thursday afternoon, delivered by a process server who looked apologetic as he handed me the envelope. I'd been expecting them, had even dressed for the occasion in my most housewife-appropriate outfit: yoga pants and an oversized sweater. The costume of invisibility. "Mrs. Hutchinson, I need you to sign here." I took the pen with trembling hands. Not real trembling, just the performance of it. "What is this?" "I can't discuss the contents, ma'am. Just need your signature confirming delivery." I signed, closed the door, and allowed myself a small smile before opening the envelope. Inside was exactly what Gerald had predicted: Derek's petition for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The asset list was fascinating reading. Our house, which he valued at $2.1 million and listed as marital property acquired jointly. His retirement accounts. His stock options. A joint checking account with $47,000. His car, my car. Standard household furnishings and effects. Nothing about my properties. Nothing about my LLCs. Nothing about my rental income or my business. Because Derek had no idea any of it existed. I photographed every page and sent them to Gerald, then called Emma at school. "It's happening," I said when she answered. "Papers just arrived." "Oh my God." Okay. What do we do?" "We file our response, and then we watch Derek's world fall apart." I could hear her sharp intake of breath. "I wish I could be there." "You will be. For the fun parts. I promise." Gerald called 15 minutes later. "I've reviewed the petition. This is even better than I hoped. He's asking for half of the house, half of all marital assets, and spousal support while the divorce is pending." Spousal support? I actually laughed. He wants me to pay him? His lawyer probably advised it as a negotiating tactic. Start high, settle lower. They think you'll panic and accept a quick settlement to avoid court. Gerald's voice was warm with anticipation. "Vanessa, they've walked right into it. Our response is going to be spectacular." We spent an hour on the phone going over every detail of our filing. My response would include not just a denial of Derek's claims, but a complete disclosure of my assets. All 27 properties, all my business entities, documentation proving I'd built everything independently. We'd request that the house remain mine as separate property, ask for the return of any community funds Derek had spent on personal expenses, and demand full disclosure of his affair with Melissa. "When can we file?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning. I'll have everything ready by 9 a.m. The moment we file, Derek and his lawyer will receive copies. I suggest you not be home when that happens." "Why not?" "Because Derek is going to lose his mind, and I'd prefer you be somewhere public with witnesses when he does." Good advice. I called Emma back and told her to come home Friday morning. We'd go to lunch, somewhere nice, somewhere Derek would never think to look. Let him receive the news alone, or with Melissa, or however he wanted to fall apart. That night, Derek came home late again, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine and alcohol that definitely was. He was nervous, kept glancing at me like he expected me to explode. I just smiled and asked about his day. "Fine," he said curtly. "Work stuff, you know." "I do know, actually." He froze. "What?" "I know about work stuff. It's stressful. You look tired." He relaxed slightly. Yeah, just a lot going on." "Well, you should get some rest. Big day tomorrow, probably." That night, I barely slept. Not from anxiety, I was far past that, but from anticipation. 20 years of preparation were about to pay off. Every condescending comment, every dismissive laugh, every time Derek had made me feel small and stupid and worthless was about to be answered. Friday morning, I dressed carefully. Not in my housewife costume this time, but in the charcoal gray suit I'd bought last year for a property closing Derek knew nothing about. Professional, powerful, ready for war. Derek had already left for work, probably couldn't stand to be around me, knowing what was coming. I texted Emma that I was heading out, then drove to meet Gerald at his office. "Ready?" he asked, holding up a thick file folder. "I've been ready for 20 years. We filed at 9:15 a.m. The moment the court clerk stamped our response, copies were automatically sent to Morrison and Associates. I imagined Philip Brennan opening his email, seeing the notification, downloading our response, reading the first page, then the second, his face going from confused to shocked to horrified. Gerald and I went to his conference room to wait. He'd advised against being available by phone for the first few hours. Let them scramble, let them try to reach us and fail. Power move. Emma arrived at 10:30, bursting into the conference room with barely contained excitement. "Did you file? Is it done?" "Filed and delivered," Gerald confirmed. "Can I see Dad's face when he finds out? Please tell me someone's recording this." "No cameras, but I did have my paralegal call Morrison and Associates at 10 a.m., asking to schedule a call with them for this afternoon. They were very accommodating until they realized who we represent. Then suddenly everyone was in meetings and unavailable. We ordered lunch. Gerald's secretary brought in salads and sandwiches, and settled in to wait. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since 10 a.m., but I'd silenced it. Derek could wait. Let him experience what it felt like to be ignored, to have someone refuse to engage with him, to be treated as less important than whatever else was happening. At 1 p.m., Gerald's phone rang. He put it on speaker. "This is Philip Brennan from Morrison and Associates. I need to speak with Ms. Vanessa Hutchinson immediately." "I'm afraid Mrs. Hutchinson is unavailable at the moment," Gerald said smoothly. "But I'm her attorney, and I'm fully authorized to discuss any matters related to the divorce proceedings." What the hell is this response? These property claims? This has to be a mistake. I assure you everything in our filing is completely accurate and documented. You're claiming Mrs. Hutchinson owns 27 properties, worth over $8 million? That's insane! She's a housewife. She doesn't work. Gerald's smile was vicious. "Mr. Brennan, I suggest you review the documentation we've provided. Every property acquisition is dated and sourced. Every mortgage is in Mrs. Hutchinson's name. Every LLC is registered to her. Your client's misunderstanding of his wife's employment status doesn't change the facts. This is fraud. It has to be. There's no way." "Are you accusing my client of fraud? Because that's a serious allegation, and I'd be happy to pursue defamation charges if you'd like to put that in writing." Silence on the other end. Then, "I need to speak with my client." "I'm sure you do. We're available to discuss settlement terms whenever you're ready, but I should mention that we're also prepared to litigate this fully, including subpoenaing records related to Mr. Hutchinson's affair with his assistant, his use of marital funds for personal entertainment, and his attempts to hide assets in advance of filing." His attempts to hide assets? He hasn't hidden anything. Then I'm sure you can explain why he asked his wife about refinancing their home 6 weeks before filing for divorce, and why he suggested she seek employment shortly after, and why he invited his CPA brother over to discuss asset protection in Mrs. Hutchinson's presence. We have documentation of all of it. Another long silence. "We'll be in touch." The line went dead. Emma was practically bouncing in her seat. "Oh my God, that was amazing! Did you hear him? She's a housewife. Like that means I can't own property." "It's a common assumption," Gerald said, closing his phone, "and one that usually works in divorce court. Men often do hide assets from non-working spouses who they assume won't understand financial documents. The problem is, Derek assumed wrong." My phone was vibrating again. This time I looked. 43 missed calls from Derek, 27 text messages, 6 voicemails. I scrolled through the texts, watching the progression from confusion to anger to panic. "What the hell is your lawyer talking about? Call me now." "Vanessa, this isn't funny. We need to talk. You don't own any properties. What kind of game is this? Call me. Your lawyer is lying. I'm going to sue him for fraud. Please call me. We can work this out. I know you're trying to scare me. It won't work. Vanessa, please. Let's talk about this like adults. I showed the text to Gerald. He photographed them. Perfect. This shows consciousness of guilt. He's panicking because he knows he's caught. Should I respond? Not yet. Let him spiral for a few more hours. At 3 p.m., my phone rang. An unlisted number. I answered, putting it on speaker so Gerald and Emma could hear. You bitch! Derek's voice was shaking with rage. You absolute bitch! What the hell are you trying to pull? Hello, Derek. I'm here with my attorney, so you should know this call is being recorded. I don't care. You're lying about owning properties. You're trying to commit fraud. Derek, every property I own is properly registered and documented. Would you like me to send you the deed to our house? The one that's been in my name for 12 years? Silence. Then, that's impossible. I bought that house. No, you didn't. I bought that house with money I earned from my property investment business. You signed the deed without reading it because you were too busy with work to pay attention. You don't have a property investment business. You're a housewife. There it was. 20 years of dismissal and condescension packed into 4 words. I looked at Emma, who was gripping the edge of the table, her face flushed with anger. Derek, I said calmly, I've owned and operated a real estate investment company for 18 years. I currently own 27 properties across 5 states. My rental income is approximately $42,000 per month. My net worth is approximately $8.3 million. All of this is documented and will be presented in court. That's insane. You're insane. You couldn't possibly. I could. I did. And I accomplished all of it while you spent 20 years telling me I was too stupid to understand business. Vanessa, listen to me. No, Derek. You listen to me for once. You filed for divorce because you wanted to leave me for Melissa. You thought you could take half of everything and walk away. You assumed I was helpless and clueless and dependent on you. You were wrong about all of it. Melissa has nothing to do with this. We have photographs of you together. We have her text messages to me. We have a complete timeline of your affair. So please, continue lying. It's helping my case tremendously. He was breathing hard, nearly hyperventilating. This is a nightmare. This can't be happening. Oh, it's happening. And here's what happens next. You and your lawyer review the documentation we provided. You accept that every word of it is true. And then you agree to a settlement where you take what's actually yours, your retirement account, your car, your personal effects, and nothing else. The house is half mine. The house is 0% yours. I own it. I have the deed. You've contributed nothing to the mortgage, which is also in my name only. You have no claim to it. A judge will look at the evidence and rule accordingly. And Derek? When this goes to court, it becomes public record. Everyone will know. Your colleagues at Holloway, your friends, your family. Everyone will know that your housewife wife secretly built an $8 million empire while you mocked her for not having a job. The line went dead. He'd hung up on me. I looked at Gerald, who was taking notes rapidly. That, he said, was perfect. You were calm, factual, and gave him every opportunity to be reasonable. His response was pure emotion and denial. If this goes to trial, we'll play that recording, and it'll destroy any sympathy the judge might have had for him. Emma was crying, but she was smiling too. Mom, that was incredible. Did you hear him? He couldn't even process it. His brain just broke. 20 years, I said softly. 20 years of him thinking I was nothing. And now he knows the truth. My phone buzzed again. A text from Derek. "We need to talk in person, please." I showed it to Gerald. He shook his head. "Not yet. Let him sit with this for the weekend. Monday, we'll schedule a mediation session. But right now, he's too emotional. Give him time to accept reality." We left Gerald's office around 5 p.m. Emma wanted to go home, see if Derek was there, watch him squirm. But I convinced her to come to dinner with me instead. A nice restaurant downtown, the kind of place Derek had always said was too expensive for regular meals, not knowing I could buy the entire restaurant if I wanted to. We ordered wine, good wine, and celebrated quietly. Just the two of us, my daughter and me, marking the end of one life and the beginning of another. "What happens now?" Emma asked, twirling pasta on her fork. "Legally? Probably mediation. Derek's lawyer will advise him to settle quickly and quietly. Fighting this in court would cost him a fortune and accomplish nothing. He'll take his retirement account, we'll divide some minor assets, and he'll walk away. And then I stop pretending. I come out of the shadows. I run my business openly. I make decisions without worrying about Derek's reaction." I sipped my wine. I live my actual life instead of performing someone else's version of it. "Are you sad? About the divorce, I mean?" I considered the question. "I'm sad about the years I wasted on someone who never saw me. But I'm not sad about moving forward. This should have happened a long time ago." "Why didn't it?" "Because I wasn't ready. And because—" I paused, searching for the right words. "Because part of me hoped he'd eventually see me. Really see me. Recognize what I'd built, respect what I could do. But he never did. And he never would have. Men like Derek only understand power when it hits them in the face." We finished dinner and drove home around 8 p.m. Derek's car was in the driveway, which I'd expected. All the lights were on inside, which was unusual. Derek was typically cheap about electricity, always nagging me to turn off lights. Emma and I walked in together, presenting a united front. Derek was in the living room, surrounded by papers. He looked up as we entered, his face haggard and pale. "I've been reviewing the documents," he said quietly. "Your lawyer sent everything. The property records, the mortgages, the rental agreements, all of it." "Good. Then you understand that everything I claimed is true." "I don't understand how you did this. How you hid this from me for so long." I sat down across from him, Emma standing behind me like a bodyguard. "I didn't hide it, Derek. I just never told you. There's a difference. How could you not tell me? I'm your husband. And you spent 20 years telling me I was too stupid to understand business. Why would I share my success with someone who refused to believe I was capable of it?" He looked genuinely lost. "I never said you were stupid. You said it in 1,000 different ways. Every time you dismissed my questions about your work. Every time you laughed at the idea of me having opinions about finance or investments. Every time you introduced me as just a housewife like it was my complete identity." I leaned forward. "You made me invisible, Derek. So I used that invisibility to build something you couldn't touch. I gave you everything. This house, security, a good life. I gave myself everything, with my money, that I earned, while you took credit for it." He put his head in his hands. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered Melissa, and the divorce papers, and 20 years of condescension. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "To punish me? To humiliate me?" "I want a fair divorce. You take what's yours. I keep what's mine. We split the small amount of actual marital property, and you accept that you never owned me or my success. People will talk. When this becomes public, let them talk. Let them know that the housewife they ignored had more financial acumen than most of their husbands. Maybe it'll make them think twice about who they underestimate. Derek looked at Emma, still standing behind me. You knew about this? For 4 years, Emma said coldly. And I've watched you dismiss Mom every single day. You want to know the truth, Dad? I'm not sad you're getting divorced. I'm relieved. Mom deserves better than someone who makes her feel small. Something in Derek crumbled then. His shoulders sagged, and when he looked up, there were tears in his eyes. I loved you. I thought we were happy. You loved the version of me you created, I said. The helpless housewife who needed you. But that person never existed, and we were never happy. You were comfortable, and I was playing a role. Neither of those things is happiness. He nodded slowly. Your lawyer mentioned settlement. What are the terms? You keep your retirement account, your car, your personal possessions, and half of our joint checking account. I keep the house, my properties, my business, and my assets. We sell the furniture if you want. Split that money. Everything else stays with whoever currently has it. That's it? After 20 years of marriage? Derek, you contributed nothing to my business. You can't claim assets you didn't help build. It's that simple. What about spousal support? I almost laughed. You make $350,000 a year. You'll be fine. But you make more than that every month. From my business, that I built, without your help or knowledge. You're not entitled to it just because we were married. He sat with that for a long moment. I could see him processing, calculating, realizing that there was no angle here, no way to win. The evidence was too complete. The law was too clear. I'll talk to my lawyer on Monday, he said finally. We'll work something out. Good. The faster we settle, the faster we can both move on. He stood, picking up some of the papers. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. I need space to think. That's fine. Take whatever you need from the bedroom. He left without another word, and Emma and I listened to him moving around upstairs, packing a bag. The front door closed 20 minutes later. Emma sat down next to me. Is it always going to feel this weird? Probably, for a while. But it'll get better. Do you think he'll actually settle? Or will he drag this out? He'll settle. Philip Brennan is a smart lawyer. He knows they have no case. Fighting would cost Derek hundreds of thousands in legal fees to accomplish nothing. He'll advise settlement, and Derek will take it. I was right. The mediation happened the following Wednesday. Derek showed up with Philip Brennan and a defeated expression. We spent 4 hours going through assets, documenting everything, making it official. Derek signed away any claim to my properties. I agreed to let him keep some of the artwork he liked. We split the joint account down the middle. By the end of it, we had a settlement agreement. 60 days to finalize. No fault. Divorce. Clean break. Philip Brennan pulled Gerald aside as we were leaving. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw Philip shaking his head, looking embarrassed. Later, Gerald told me. He said this was the most humbling case of his career. He'd completely bought into his client's version of reality without doing basic due diligence. It's going to haunt him. Good. Let it haunt him. Let it remind him and every other lawyer that underestimating housewives is a mistake. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in February, exactly 11 weeks after Derek served me papers. The judge was a woman in her 50s who looked at the asset distribution, looked at Derek, looked at me, and said, "This is one of the most straightforward divorce proceedings I've seen. Everything is clearly documented. I'm granting the divorce as petitioned. Good luck to both of you." Walking out of that courtroom, I felt lighter than I had in 20 years. Emma was waiting outside, having driven down from school for the hearing. She hugged me tight. "It's over," she whispered. "It's finally over." "It's not over," I corrected. "It's beginning." We went to lunch to celebrate. Emma's choice this time, a burger place near campus that she loved. Sitting across from my daughter, eating overpriced burgers and sharing fries, I realized this was what happiness felt like. Not the performance of it, not the pretense, just the real thing. "What's next?" Emma asked. "Are you going to run your business openly now?" "Absolutely. I'm meeting with a marketing firm next week to discuss building a public brand. Time to stop hiding." "And dating? Are you going to start dating?" I laughed. "Eventually." "Maybe. Right now, I'm just enjoying being myself." The news spread quickly through Derek's circles. His colleagues at Holloway were apparently shocked and deeply amused to discover that Derek's housewife wife was a multi-millionaire real estate investor. Several of them reached out to me through LinkedIn, congratulating me, asking for investment advice. Derek, I heard through Emma, was mortified. He lasted another 4 months at Holloway before quietly taking a position at a smaller firm. Melissa, his assistant, broke up with him shortly after the divorce was finalized. Apparently, she'd been attracted to his success and stability, and discovering that his housewife ex-wife was wealthier than him had destroyed the fantasy. 6 months after the divorce, I gave my first interview to a real estate investment magazine. They wanted to know my story, how I'd built a multi-million-dollar portfolio while maintaining the appearance of being a stay-at-home wife. I was honest about all of it. The condescension, the dismissal, the way I'd used invisibility as a strategic advantage. The article went viral. Suddenly, I was getting interview requests from business shows, podcasts, women's magazines. Everyone wanted to know about the housewife who'd secretly built an empire. I accepted some interviews, declined others, built a website for my investment company, started a consulting service helping other women build their own investment portfolios, taught seminars on real estate investment and financial independence. Derek sent me a text message after one of my interviews aired on a morning show. "I watched your interview. You were good. I'm sorry I never saw who you really were." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say to him. That chapter was closed. Emma graduated from Columbia with honors and a degree in finance. She joined my company immediately, bringing fresh energy and new ideas. We expanded into commercial properties, then into property management services. The business grew exponentially with both of us working on it openly. 1 year after the divorce, I sold the Riverside Drive house. Too many memories, too much history. I bought a penthouse downtown instead, all glass and light and open space. Emma helped me decorate it, and we threw a housewarming party for our new friends and business associates. Standing on my balcony that night, looking out over the city lights, I thought about the woman I'd been. The one who'd folded underwear and bitten her tongue and played small for 20 years. That woman had been necessary. She'd given me the space and time to build something real. But I was glad she was gone. I wasn't just a housewife. I'd never been just a housewife. I was a businesswoman, an investor, a strategist, a mother, a success. And now, finally, everyone knew it. Derek had spent 20 years calling me just a housewife. His lawyer had discovered housewives could own deeds, but what they'd both learned, the hard way, was something more important. Never underestimate the woman you dismiss. She might be building an empire while you're not paying attention. And when you finally notice, it'll already be too late. The end. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.